The company had a bizarre rule. The last person to leave at night had to stand at the door and shout, "I'm turning off the lights." Then they had to wait 10 full minutes before actually flipping the switch and going home. If they didn't, they would simply vanish. My little sister never took it seriously. One night she worked late until 2 in the morning. She was the only one left in the office. The whole building was dark. She was exhausted, wanted nothing more than to go home, shower, and collapse into bed. So instead of waiting 10 minutes like the rule said, she just turned off the lights and walked out. She disappeared that night. From that moment on, no one ever saw her again. On my first day at the same company, Deep Net Solutions, HR walked me down the hall to the fingerprint scanner. The woman leading me, everyone called her Miss Yang, though her actual name was Janet Young, kept her voice light at first, chatting about benefits and office coffee. Then, just as I placed my thumb on the scanner, her tone shifted. "Listen, Charlotte," she said seriously. "Your department works late a lot. You absolutely have to remember this. If you're the last one out at night, you must stand at the door and shout, 'I'm turning off the lights.' Then you wait 10 minutes. Only after 10 minutes can you turn the lights off and leave. Whatever you do, don't just flip the switch and walk out. Never. Got it?" I pressed my thumb to the screen and gave her a calm, neutral smile. "Why?" I asked. "Is the building haunted or something?" Janet flinched almost imperceptibly, like I had poked a bruise she was trying to hide. She glanced around the empty hallway, then lowered her voice. "Don't ask," she whispered. "If you don't want to disappear without a trace, just do it. I'm telling you this for your own good." Anyone else probably would have laughed it off. An urban legend-style office myth, nothing more. But I knew she was telling the truth. 2 weeks earlier, my little sister had vanished. In one of her last texts to me, she'd mentioned that her company had this weird rule about the lights at night. Being a stubborn materialist who only believed in what she could see and measure, she didn't take it seriously. She joked that some manager must have read too many horror stories. That night, she texted to say she was working late and was going to be the last one to leave. By then, the whole building was dark. She'd stayed behind to finish a campaign. She was tired and in a hurry, so she decided she didn't feel like waiting 10 whole minutes at the door. She turned off the lights and left. That was her last message. After that, nothing. No calls, no texts, no posts. Her phone went straight to voicemail. She didn't go home. She didn't go back to work. She just stopped existing in our lives. My parents nearly lost their minds. The next morning they filed a missing person report. The police pulled security footage from the building, but the recording from the moment she turned the lights off onward was simply gone. No signs of tampering. No system errors. It was as if the feed had dissolved into static exactly when she flipped the switch. Over the next 10 days, the police checked everything: bank accounts, credit cards, ID records, toll cameras, bus stations, airports. Nothing. It was like she had evaporated from the world. No trace. No explanation. My parents were desperate enough to turn to their strange elder daughter, me. I'd been the odd one since I was a kid. Quiet, emotionally flat, always more interested in systems than people. My parents thought I was cold, my sister thought I was simply different, not broken. And now, because nothing else worked, they asked me to come back to the States and help. I knew the police wouldn't find anything. Whatever had happened to my sister wasn't the kind of thing a normal investigation could uncover. So I went straight to the source. I applied for a job at Deep Net. Their new business model was rebranded as a compact ad tech and creative studio, but legally, it was the same company on my sister's missing person report. My resume was good. The interview was easy. I got the job. Once I saw how seriously Janet took that lights out rule, I knew I was in the right place. She clearly wasn't going to tell me more. So I went looking for someone else. On the engineering floor there was a programmer named Ethan Yue. Everyone said he was the overtime king. Out of 30 days a month, at least 20 nights he was the last one to leave. If anyone knew the truth behind the rule, it had to be him. On Friday I brought milk tea for the whole tech team, claiming it was a new hire treat. Then I casually slid into the desk next to his. He was shy, shoulders slightly hunched, but polite and soft-spoken. I set the drink on his desk. Here, eat them. You're always helping everyone with bug fixes. Consider this a thank you in advance. He gave me a nervous little smile, pushed his glasses up his nose and murmured, thank you. We chatted about code for a minute. Then I steered the conversation. So, Ethan, I said lightly. Janet told me about that rule, shouting at the door and waiting 10 minutes before turning off the lights. Is that for real? He froze. I heard you're often the last one here, I added. You really do that every time? No exceptions? The color drained from his face. He stared straight ahead, eyes unfocused, like he was seeing something else entirely. His lips moved soundlessly before he whispered, almost like a mantra, I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. Suddenly his whole body shuddered. His right hand flew to his chest, fingers digging into the fabric of his t-shirt so hard his knuckles turned white. His face went ashen, sweat broke out on his forehead in a fine, cold sheen. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. His body slipped down the chair, his gaze flickering. Ethan. I grabbed his shoulders. Where's your medication? Ethan, your meds, where are they? He shook his head, still clutching his chest. She warned me, he rasped. She warned me. I must never talk. Before I could do anything else, his eyes rolled back and he collapsed. The company called an ambulance. That afternoon, Janet came back from the hospital, expression grim. Ethan's not doing well, she told us. He won't be back to work for a while. His reaction stunned me. He obviously knew something. And he was terrified enough that simply being asked about the rule had thrown him into a full-blown cardiac event. The next day, I bought fruit and flowers and went to the hospital. I never made it past the hallway. A nurse blocked the door with a firm but apologetic expression. No visitors, she said. He's too unstable. The doctor says he can't handle any stimulation. I sat down hard on the plastic chair in the corridor, unsure what to do next. Charlotte? Is that really you? I looked up, startled. A man in a white coat stood in front of me, holding a tablet. He had a familiar face, a more adult version of the boy who used to share snacks with me on the playground. Ben? I blinked. Ben Carter? He laughed, surprised and pleased. I can't believe it. I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. What are you doing back in town? Ben, who'd gone by Benny as a kid, was now Dr. Benjamin Carter, attending cardiologist. As it turned out, he was Ethan's doctor. Ethan had been born with a congenital heart defect, and had undergone a major arterial switch surgery as a baby. An implantable cardioverter defibrillator, a tiny device that monitors heart rhythm and corrects dangerous arrhythmias, had been placed in his chest. That's why he survived, Ben explained. He went into a life-threatening arrhythmia, but the ICD shocked him back to a stable rhythm almost immediately. Physically, his vitals are fine now. Heart, lungs, blood work, all within acceptable range. So why won't they let me see him? I asked. Is it his brain? Like a coma? Ben shook his head. Not quite. Neurology did a full workup, high-resolution MRI, EEG, functional scans. His brain structure is perfectly normal. No lesions, no swelling, no signs of oxygen loss. But his neural activity is unusual. How unusual? Ben hesitated, then said, the networks involved in waking up and integrating consciousness, especially the default mode network and the prefrontal cortex, are abnormally active. It's like all the circuits for awareness are lit up. He caught himself and gave an apologetic smile. Sorry. Too much jargon. In plain English, his brain is ready to wake up, but something, maybe his own mind, is refusing. It's like he's holding the door shut from the inside. There's no physical reason for him to stay unconscious. But he's choosing not to wake up. I thought of his panicked whisper, she warned me. I must never talk. Do you think he's afraid of something? I asked quietly. Ben shrugged, troubled. Maybe. People retreat into themselves when they're terrified. Sometimes it's easier to go numb than to face whatever scared you. My mind raced. Before collapsing, Ethan had tried to talk and then choked on the same phrase over and over. I didn't say anything. He had seen something that terrified him enough to make his heart misfire and his mind slam the door on reality. If Ethan had broken the rule and survived, then my sister hadn't simply been singled out. There was a pattern. But why was she gone and he was still here? Ben waved a hand in front of my face. Earth to Charlotte. I blinked up at him. You came back to the States and your first stop is DeepNet? He asked. That's interesting. My eyes narrowed. You know about DeepNet? He gave a small, complicated smile. Let's just say I know they have a very strange rule about their office at night. I nodded slowly. My sister disappeared because of that rule, I said. I'm trying to find out what really happened. Ben's eyes widened. Your sister vanished? I didn't answer. My silence was enough. He gripped my shoulders suddenly, his expression tight with unease. Charlie, this feels wrong, he said. I have a really bad feeling about this. I think you should walk away. Don't dig any deeper. I shook my head. You know how I am, I said. I've never been good with emotions. I don't scare easily. I paused, then added, my parents never really liked me much. Too cold, too strange. But my sister, she was kind. She was the only one who treated me like I wasn't broken. I'm not leaving her in the dark. Not like this. You're a doctor, I added, looking him in the eye. You don't really believe in urban legends, do you? Ghosts? Curses? He frowned. You just said urban legend, didn't you? Yes. Why? He went rigid. His brows knit together so tightly they almost touched. He stared over my shoulder, distracted, like something distant and ugly had just snapped into focus in his mind. I think I remember something, he muttered. I have to check. He looked back at me, eyes intense. Don't go back to that office tonight. Don't go near the lights. Give me a little time. He swallowed. I'll bring your sister back. My stomach dropped. What did you remember? I asked. Tell me. I'll go with you. His gaze skittered away from mine. No. I need to do this myself. Just trust me. He unclipped his hospital badge and shoved it in his pocket as he turned to leave. Ben. But he was already walking away, shoulders tight, not looking back. The next day, he didn't answer my calls. I went straight to his parents' house. His mother opened the door, looking puzzled. He's not home, she said. He's probably still at the hospital. He does that a lot. My stomach twisted. I drove straight to the hospital. Nothing. Ben was nowhere to be found. No one had seen him since the previous afternoon. I hadn't wanted to panic his family. But there was no hiding this. We reported him missing. The police moved fast. Within hours, they pulled security footage from the hospital and the company. What they found made my blood run cold. After leaving me at the hospital, Ben had gone straight to DeepNet. He had met with the CEO, Gordon Hayes, in the executive office, and stayed there for a while. The two of them argued, no audio, but the body language was clear. Ben left with his jaw clenched and his face ashen. He didn't leave the building. Instead, he went to the break room. He stayed there the rest of the afternoon, alone. He waited. When the last employee left and the office lights dimmed, he stepped out of the break room, walked calmly to the main switch, turned the lights off. And the footage cut out. Just like my sister's. As if someone had taken scissors and sliced reality right down the middle. The officers questioned his parents, hard. Why did your son visit the CEO? One demanded. How did he get in? He doesn't work there. What's his relationship to Mr. Hayes? Ben's mother, shaking and tear-stained, sobbed, Gordon is my brother. Ben interned at DeepNet for a while back when they were still a game studio. I don't know why he went to see him. I swear, I have no idea. Their panic was too raw to be fake. But I knew something had triggered Ben that day, and that something had everything to do with Gordon Hayes. I went back to the office. Janet dug out old promotional brochures for me, happy to see a new employee interested in company history. At home, I compared those with articles and archived posts I pulled from the internet. The story pieced itself together. DeepNet's predecessor had been a small indie game studio. Gordon and his co-founder, Henry Yu, had built a wildly original horror game prototype that became a minor sensation online when the teaser trailer dropped. Gordon, the business mind, flew overseas, secured investment, and turned the studio into DeepNet Games. The company grew fast. They opened new departments. The game was the crown jewel of their catalog. But investors wanted more. The board pushed them to make the game edgier, more viral, more sensational. They wanted jump scares, shock value, microtransactions, anything to maximize engagement. Henry, the creative lead and technical genius, hated that vision. He designed the game as a slow-burning, immersive, psychological horror experience, not a cheap scare machine. After multiple clashes, he decided to walk away, taking his upgraded version of the game with him. He never got the chance. On the eve of his departure, he died suddenly of a heart issue. Publicly, it was framed as a tragic coincidence. Gordon, devastated by the loss of his friend, shut down the entire game division and pivoted the company into advertising technology and creative services. The core horror project was shelved forever. That's the sanitized version. But there were holes. And one very strange detail. Around the same time, DeepNet had briefly partnered with a medical device company to promote a wearable external defibrillator, basically a vest that could shock a person's heart back into rhythm, like an external ICD. The marketing materials, testimonies, and design sketches had all been created in-house. Henry had also had a congenital heart condition. He had chosen not to use an implantable defibrillator because of autoimmune complications. The external wearable device would have been perfect for someone like him. Gordon had helped advertise it. He knew exactly what it could do. So why hadn't it saved Henry? And what did any of this have to do with an office lights-out rule that made people vanish? My eyes ached. I rubbed them and looked up. The windows were black. Everyone else had gone home hours ago. Only the soft glow of computer monitors lit the office, casting sickly rectangles across the carpet. I was alone. I stood. Any rational person would have waited. Gather more data, find another survivor, piece together a safer plan. But my sister had already been missing for 2 weeks. Ben had vanished within a day of promising to bring her back. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't going to wait politely for me to understand it. I took out my phone, typed a single text to a number with an international country code, and hit send. The reply came almost instantly, an incoming call. I declined it. Instead, I walked to the light switch. My fingertips rested on the plastic plate. "Let's see what you've been hiding," I whispered. I flipped the switch. The light snapped off. Darkness swallowed the office. Vertigo slammed into me. My stomach lurched, like I'd stepped onto a boat in rough seas. My ears buzzed with a high, thin whine. The air felt thick, heavy, as if the whole building had fallen underwater. Shapes streaked past my eyes, flickers of light, glitching fragments like corrupted video frames. Then everything stopped. I opened my eyes. I was still standing at the office door. But something was wrong. The overhead lights were off. The only illumination came from the monitors on every desk. They weren't bright white. They glowed a strange, sickly yellow, like 100 dying candles bleeding their last drops of light. The entire open-plan floor was bathed in a faded, sepia tone, like an old photograph left too long in the sun. The smell hit me next. It was the kind of metallic tang you get in a hospital, mixed with something faint and rotten, like damp carpet that's never fully dried. My stomach clenched. I took a step forward. The floor didn't feel like carpet. It felt soft and slightly springy under my shoes, like walking on moss or flesh. "I'm pretty, right?" A female voice came out of nowhere. I jumped, heart stuttering. My eyes struggled to focus. A woman stood directly in front of me, long dark hair falling like a curtain around her face. She wore a simple coat and a surgical mask over the lower half of her face. I'm pretty, right? She asked again. Under the dim, weird light, I could see her big eyes, long lashes, smooth skin. You are very pretty, I heard myself say. Her eyes curved in a smile. Slowly, she reached up with long, pale fingers and hooked them around the ear loops of her mask. Then she pulled it down. I sucked in a breath. The upper half of her face was normal. The lower half was wrong. It looked like someone had cut her mouth open from ear to ear, then crudely stitched it back with dark thread. The smile was too wide, too fixed, the skin around it puckered and shiny. The scene tickled something in the back of my mind, like a memory misaligned with reality. Now? She asked softly. Am I still pretty? Salty liquid dribbled from the split corners of her mouth, tinted a muted, pearly pink in the dim light. It slid down her chin like diluted blood. I stared, frozen. Am I pretty? She demanded again, her voice turning hoarse and shrill, the sound scraping against my eardrums like metal. My mind raced. I'd seen this before. In an online thread. A horror forum. A Japanese urban legend. The slit-mouthed woman. In the original story, there were only two safe answers: you look average, or asking her something so random and confusing that she got distracted. If you called her pretty, she killed you. If you called her ugly, she got offended and killed you faster. But those were the rules of a legend. This wasn't that legend. This was Henry Yu's game. He designed the rules. I swallowed my disgust and met her eyes. You look okay, I said carefully. Nothing special. She blinked. For a moment she actually looked confused. Then her neck twisted with a wet crack. The grotesque smile tore wider, the jagged seam splitting further. Dark, viscous fluid oozed from the wound. Her hand moved. A giant, rusty pair of scissors appeared, clenched in her fingers like it had grown out of her palm. Not pretty? She shrieked. Not pretty? She lunged at me. Adrenaline hit like a shock. I turned and ran. Her scissors snapped open and shut behind me, blades clanging like some warped metronome. The floor beneath my feet squished and shifted, as if the carpet itself was trying to drag me backward toward her. You wanted me to smile. She screeched. I'm smiling now. Why isn't it pretty enough? Just as I felt the chill of metal at the back of my neck, a door beside me flew open. A hand shot out, grabbed my arm, and yanked me through. The door slammed shut. A warm palm clamped over my mouth, muffling my gasp. Don't make a sound, a low voice hissed in my ear. She's still out there. The voice was painfully familiar. We waited. The footsteps and snip-snap of the scissors echoed down the hallway outside. They lingered at the door, then slowly faded away. Only then did the hand leave my mouth. I turned. In the dim green glow of an emergency exit sign, I saw Ben's face, pale, drawn, but very much alive. Are you out of your mind? He whispered, gripping my shoulders so hard it hurt. You actually broke the rule on purpose? You came in here voluntarily? I pushed his hands away, rubbing my sore skin. How else was I supposed to find my sister? I shot back. Or you? He stared at me like I'd lost my mind. This place is lethal, Charlotte. Your sister already got pulled in. Now I'm stuck here too. You should have stayed out. Don't you feel anything? Don't you understand how dangerous this is? I thought about it. My heart was pounding. My palms were damp. My muscles were tense, that much I could feel. But beneath that, the deep, animal terror I should have felt just wasn't there. I'm uncomfortable, I said. But scared? Not really. Ben stared at me, then let out a strangled, humorless laugh. Of course, he muttered. Of course you're like this. We can talk about my emotional issues later, I said flatly. Right now, you need to tell me what's going on. What did you remember? What did you come here to verify? He exhaled, sliding his back down the fire door until he was sitting on the cold concrete. After a beat, he motioned for me to sit across from him. When you said urban legend, something clicked, he said quietly. Back when DeepNet was still a game studio, I interned there for a summer. They were in the middle of developing an upgraded horror title. He glanced at me. It wasn't just a normal game. It used advanced VR and sensory tech for immersive urban legend experiences. Players would be thrown into different horror scenarios based on real-world legends from all over the world. The slit-mouthed woman was one of them. So when I mentioned urban legends, I prompted. It jogged my memory, he said. I'd actually played a test build. It was insanely realistic. You could feel the air, the temperature, even the texture of surfaces. It was terrifying, but kind of incredible. He stared past me, lost in the memory. Henry, you is a genius, he said. But after he died, the upgraded version was locked away. The game never launched. Management told everyone the whole project was shelved out of respect. I thought of Henry's supposed heart attack, his rare heart condition, the wearable defibrillator campaign. And you think he didn't go quietly, I said. You think he left a mark? Ben gave a small, humorless smile. I don't know what to call it, he said. A curse. A glitch. A leftover shard of code embedded in reality. But I think this office, this version of it we're in right now, is his game. Or a piece of it. And when someone breaks the lights out rule, I finished, they get pulled into this level. He nodded grimly. We're inside his horror game, Charlotte. For real. The only way out is to finish it. I frowned. If it's based on urban legends, we should be able to follow the original rules, right? I told the slit-mouthed woman she was just okay, which should have been a safe answer. Ben looked embarrassed. He rubbed the bridge of his nose. About that, he said. There were modifications. What kind of modifications? Henry thought telling a woman she was average was rude, Ben admitted. So he rewrote that level's rules. In his version, you survive by saying she's truly beautiful. I stared at him. You're telling me, I said slowly, he redesigned a lethal ghost encounter based on not hurting a fictional woman's feelings. Ben shrugged helplessly. He was a perfectionist about empathy and horror, okay? He wanted it to feel scary but still respectful. So the original legends are useless, I concluded. We have to rely on his custom versions. Ben nodded. I played most of the levels in that test build. I remember a lot of the solutions. As long as we don't run into anything that was cut or changed later, I can probably get us through. Probably, I echoed. He didn't answer. There's one thing I still don't get, I said. Where does the 10-minute waiting rule come from? Did any of the levels include that? Ben shook his head. No. Waiting 10 minutes in the dark was never part of the game mechanics. His brows drew together. That's the part that bothers me. The rule feels like something someone added later. Not Henry. A sound interrupted him. Heels. Click, click, click. Slow, deliberate steps echoed up the stairwell. Something was walking up toward us. Ben and I shot to our feet, pressing our backs against the walls, trying to see through the narrow safety glass in the door. A face slid into view. Dark brown skin. Huge, unblinking eyes. A nurse's cap. Time for your shot, the figure said in a sing-song voice. Her body was facing away from us on the stairs, walking backward as if on rewind, but her head was twisted around 180 degrees to stare straight at the door, eyes completely black. Time for your shot, she repeated. That's from the Manila hospital legend, Ben whispered. The nurse who drags you off for injections that never end. Don't let her touch you. Her domain is the hospital. We just have to get out of it. He yanked the door open, grabbed my hand, and pulled me through. The smell of disinfectant hit us like a wall. We stood in a long, dim corridor, walls painted a sickly green, the overhead fluorescent lights buzzing and flickering. Doors on either side bore room numbers, their windows coated in grime. This way, Ben said. We ducked into a supply closet, slamming the heavy metal door behind us. From the tiny wired glass window, we saw the backward-walking nurse glide past, her head still twisted entirely around. Her black eyes locked on the closet window, unblinking. Time for your shot, she whispered, her voice scraping across my skin. We held our breath. After an eternity, her footsteps receded. What now? I whispered. We run, Ben said simply. We just have to get out of her turf. Once we're off hospital grounds, she can't touch us. It felt like hours. We dodged gurneys that rolled themselves, past rooms where unseen hands slammed doors open and shut, squeezed by wheelchairs that creaked forward without riders. The corridor seemed to stretch and warp, shifting angles, swallowing distance. But at the very end, a heavy door waited. When we shoved it open, an icy blast of air hit us. We were no longer in a hospital. Snow swirled around us, thick and relentless. A gray sky pressed low overhead. In the distance, a small cabin stood, half buried in drifts. Ben exhaled. New level, he muttered. We trudged through knee-deep snow. By the time we reached the cabin and pushed the door open, my fingers were numb. Inside, a wood stove glowed faintly. A figure huddled by it, arms wrapped around her knees. She turned. October, I whispered. My sister's eyes went wide. Then the shock crumpled and gave way to tears. Charlotte? She choked, voice breaking. You idiot. What are you doing here? She launched herself into my arms, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. I held her tight. For the first time in a long time, something deep inside my chest ached, like a muscle that had finally remembered how to work. It's okay, I murmured. I'm here now. We're getting out. She hiccuped, wiping at her face. No, she whispered. We're not. The warmth of reunion drained from her expression, replaced by something cold and weary. I've already cleared this level, she said. And the hospital. And the slit-mouthed woman. And the 8-foot lady in the forest. And the school bathroom ghost. All of them. She looked me straight in the eye. I beat them. Every single one, she said. And I'm still here. The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. This place isn't a normal game, Charlotte, she continued, voice flat. There is no clear all levels and you wake up. The exit isn't built in. I looked at Ben. He was pale, his brows furrowed. Then the only other explanation, I said slowly, is that the game is being held open by something or someone on the outside. Ben swallowed. Or by someone who died, he said softly. October frowned. What do you mean? I turned to him. The night Henry died, I said. Do you remember when it happened? Who found his body? Who called 911? He blinked. I know it was at night, he said slowly. And they found him in the office the next morning. Gordon said he'd been working late and must have gone into cardiac arrest alone. Why? Because Henry had a heart condition, I said. And DeepNet was promoting a wearable defibrillator at the time. Gordon knew exactly what to do if Henry collapsed. If he really cared, he could have saved him. Ben's face tightened, realization dawning like a bruise. You think he didn't want to, he said. I think he wanted the game to himself, I said. And he wanted to control the company without Henry. So when Henry broke the rule and went into cardiac arrest, I paused, then said it plainly. Gordon heard him collapse. He walked to the door. He put his hand on the switch. And he turned off the lights. Silence fell over the cabin. Snow pelted the windows. My sister's eyes widened, horror creeping across her face. You're saying, she whispered, that the 10-minute rule isn't some safety superstition. It's the exact thing Gordon did when he left Henry to die. I nodded. Gordon created the rule, I said. To mimic what he did. To normalize it. Maybe to cover his tracks. Or maybe Henry twisted it into something else after he died. After he was murdered, October corrected quietly. A heavy thump shook the cabin. Another. The floor trembled. Snow slid off the roof in sheets. Ben's eyes darted to the door. We're not alone, he said. The door burst open. A giant shadow filled the frame, a towering figure, too big for the cabin, stooping under the lintel. For a moment it was just a silhouette against the blizzard. Then it shrank. Limbs shortened, spine straightened, proportions folding inward until a young man in a plaid shirt stood there, glasses perched on his nose, hair rumpled. He looked ordinary. If you ignored the cold, flat glint in his eyes. Henry, you, Ben breathed. Henry's gaze slid over each of us in turn. When his eyes met mine, something like bitter amusement tugged at the corner of his mouth. "I should have known," he said. "You'd eventually come find her." Ben took a step forward. You built all this," he said. "This world. These levels." Henry shrugged lightly. "Leftovers," he said. "Scraps. But they do the job." "You're holding everyone here," I said. "My sister. Ben. Everyone who breaks the rule." He studied me for a moment, then said, "I didn't start this, you know." "You didn't have to continue it," October shot back. "You're hurting innocent people." Henry's gaze flicked to her. For a moment, guilt clouded his eyes. "Do you know what it's like," he asked quietly, "to die listening to your partner's footsteps walk away? To hear him flip the switch and leave you there on the floor?" The cabin seemed to contract around us. "The wearable defibrillator was in the drawer less than 3 feet away," he said. "I could see the edge of it. I just couldn't reach it." My chair rolled back when I fell. I clawed at the floor, tried to pull myself forward, but every inch I managed to drag myself, the chair rolled further away. He lifted a hand, miming the motion of fingers scrabbling helplessly at carpet. I heard him standing in the doorway. Henry continued. He didn't say a single word. Just flipped the lights off. He mimicked the motion of a finger tapping a switch. "The last thing I saw," he said, "was his back as he walked away." No one spoke. The quiet burned. "So yes," Henry said at last, a brittle laugh scraping his throat. When he later brushed off concerns about some silly office superstition and refused to warn anyone properly, I might have decided to reinforce the rule for him. My sister's voice was small but firm. "That doesn't justify this." Henry's jaw tightened. "You think I don't know that?" He snapped. "You think I wanted to drag anyone else into this?" But he set the rule. He left it in place. He let people keep risking it. All I did was make sure that when someone broke it, I'd get a chance to pull on the thread. "A thread leading back to him," I said quietly. Henry's eyes met mine. I took a step forward. "You've been waiting," I said. "You've been hoping enough people would vanish that someone would notice, that it would create pressure, investigations, chaos around Gordon. You wanted to force the truth to the surface." "And?" he said. "Has it worked?" I smiled without humor. "Yes," I said. "Because I brought him to you." The door banged open again. A figure stumbled in, hands tied, gag in his mouth, snow crusted on his expensive coat. Gordon Hayes. He hit the floor hard, groaning. A man leaned against the doorframe behind him, expression relaxed, a silver lighter dangling from his fingers. His dark hair was mussed from the wind, his black jacket unzipped over a gray hoodie. A pair of fingerless gloves clung to his hands. "You're welcome," he drawled. "You didn't tell me this was a whole horror dimension, Charlie. Your text just said kidnap a CEO and drag him into a shared nightmare." I didn't look at him. "You're late," I said. He snorted. "Flight delays. You know how it is." This was Logan, my inconveniently talented, morally flexible, and annoyingly smug contact overseas. We'd met years ago, on a job that looked much more boring on paper than it had actually been. I grabbed Gordon's collar and hauled him upright, shoving him in front of Henry. "There," I said. "You don't have to keep waiting. Your murder suspect has arrived." Gordon's face had gone gray. "Ben," he gasped, eyes pleading as he looked past me. Tell them I tried to save Henry. Tell them." Ben flinched, his expression tortured. Henry watched him for a long moment, then asked, softly, "Did you?" Gordon's mouth opened. No sound came out. "Because what I remember," Henry continued, "is you standing there. You looked at me. And then you turned off the light." His voice didn't rise. That made it worse. Gordon's knees buckled. He sank to the floor, shaking. "I was scared," he whispered. "We were about to go public. The investors, if anything happened because of some experimental build." "So you let me die?" Henry asked. Gordon burst into desperate, rambling apologies. He promised money, the company, anything. Henry listened, expression unreadable. Finally, he sighed. You don't get to bargain with me, he said. The cabin shuddered. The walls dissolved like wet paint, revealing the original office, the old game studio, full of cluttered code printouts and concept art. Snow transformed into flowing numbers, wind into lines of code. Gordon screamed. His body began to fade, pixels breaking away from his outline and blowing off into the digital storm. He clawed at the floor, reaching for Ben, for me, for anyone. Ben turned his head away. His mother's earlier words echoed in my mind, Gordon is my brother. Sometimes justice doesn't come clean. Gordon's voice frayed into static and vanished. Henry's outline flickered. The fury leached from his face, leaving only exhaustion and something like peace. I'm sorry, he said, looking at each of us. For dragging you into this. I didn't plan it this way. I just couldn't let him walk away again. He turned his head, gazing at some invisible point beyond us. The game is over, he said quietly. The world glitched. Light flared. I squeezed my eyes shut. When I opened them, sunlight stabbed my retinas. Cars honked. Someone shouted across the street. A bus whooshed by. We were standing in front of Deep Net's glass doors. October clutched my arm. Ben swayed next to us, bracing himself on the wall. It's over? My sister whispered. Ben stared at the rotating Deep Net logo, equal parts shaken and thoughtful. Looks like it, he said. At least, this part. October turned to me. Did you know? She asked. That Gordon was the problem all along? I shook my head. I suspected, I said. The fact that he set the rule, that he'd been there when Henry died. It was too much to be a coincidence. I figured if we couldn't find the exit, dragging him in would force the truth out. Ben winced. You kidnapped him, he said. My uncle. I outsourced, I corrected. Logan did the actual kidnapping. Hey, Logan drawled from where he now leaned against the building, hands in his pockets as if he'd been standing there the whole time. I prefer creative extraction specialist. October blinked at him. Charlotte, she whispered, tugging my sleeve. Is that your friend? I sighed. He's a problem, I said. Then, after a beat, added, but usually a useful one. Logan hooked a thumb at the street. So, he said lazily, about that international flight I dropped everything to catch, plus the CEO I gift-trapped for your undead programmer friend. You going to buy my ticket home, or is this one of those do-it-for-exposure gigs? Send me the receipts, I said. Coach, not first. He groaned. You wound me. We started walking. The air felt warmer than it should have. Sunlight soaked through my jacket down to the skin, thawing the last traces of that sepia nightmare. Charlotte, October said softly as we descended the steps. Will you keep working there? I glanced back at the building. The automatic doors slid shut behind us. To anyone passing, it looked like just another startup office. No one would suspect it had ever been anything else. The company will be investigated, I said. There will be questions. Lawsuits. Maybe worse. I'll make sure Henry's family gets what they're owed. Beyond that. I shrugged. We'll see. October slipped her arm through mine. Let's just go home tonight, she said. For once. I nodded. Behind us, Logan's voice drifted over the city noise. Next time you want a day trip to a haunted dimension, he called, I'm charging double. I didn't answer. Sunlight washed over us, chasing away the last lingering chill. For the first time in a long time, I let myself feel something close to relief. Part 2. I'm a fortune teller. Well, technically, I'm a live streamer who does readings. My channel bio says, tarot, face reading, weird cases, and a little bit of old school ritual work. Most people assume I'm a scammer. Liam Blake was one of them. Liam is a wildly popular exposed creator. He's the guy who tests dangerous products, busts fake health gadgets, and does undercover stings on scam call centers. People call him the watchdog of the internet. Recently, his newest target was me. One night during my usual stream, he requested to join my live call. On my screen, his face popped up, broad shoulders, neat haircut, clean features, and a confident broadcaster's smile. "Hey, chat," he said, giving a little wave to both our audiences. "Tonight I'm here to see if Luna the Oracle is the real deal or just another con artist. My name is Luna Reyes. I'm a content creator, a third-generation ritual practitioner, and apparently a very convenient punching bag for internet skeptics. Want me to read for you?" I asked. "Or do you prefer I read for someone near you? Sometimes that's less confrontational." Liam leaned closer to his camera, smirking. "Let's start with me," he said. "No hints. If I see you fishing, I'm cutting the call." "Okay," I said. "Do you want the nice version, or the blunt version?" "I'm an exposed channel," he said. "I'm allergic to sugarcoating. Give me the truth." "You ask for it," I replied. I studied his face on my monitor, the lines at the corners of his eyes, the tightness around his mouth, the faint crease between his brows. "You're stubborn," I said. "You like control. You're good at playing the hero, but you're not above using people if it suits your story. And you've got a history of throwing certain people under the bus if their suffering makes good content." Chat exploded. "Wow, straight for the jugular, flush face emoji, Luna girl you're brave bro, she calling you out on name." Liam only chuckled. "That's what we call character assassination, folks," he told his audience. "She doesn't know a thing about me. She's just guessing that, because I do drama content, I must be some kind of opportunist. Classic cold reading." He shrugged. "I've had angrier reactions than this. People have tried to punch me, smash my camera, even slash my tires. This is mild." His viewers spammed the chat with praise and laughing emojis. To them, I just confirmed their bias. I was another fraud lashing out when exposed. I wasn't particularly bothered. You can't convince someone who's already decided you're fake. "Fine," Liam said, still amused. "If you're so sure about your skills, read for my friend." He motioned off-screen. A second face appeared in his frame, round cheeks, a soft smile, a kind of radiating warmth. People in his chat flooded the comments with hearts and nicknames. This was Big Mike, a beloved lifestyle streamer known for cooking, dad jokes, and adorable segments with his 7-year-old son. "Do a reading for him," Liam said. "He wants to know when his second kid is coming." I stared at the man's face, tracing the lines of his features. He had a bright, open gaze, good health, strong energy. But there was one thing missing. In the language my grandmother taught me, his child palace, the area associated with fertility and offspring, was empty. Not blocked. Not dark. Just not there. I hesitated. "Be honest," Liam reminded me. "You promised." I sighed. "I'm not seeing a second child," I said. "In fact, I'm not seeing any biological children indicated in your chart at all." The chat erupted. "Excuse me? He has a son. Luna, what are you saying?" Big Mike's face fell. Liam's eyebrows shot up. "You just told a father of one that he's not meant to have children, live in front of tens of thousands of people," he said. "You realize how messed up that is, right?" I shrugged. "I read what I see," I said. "Sometimes that clashes with what people think they know. It doesn't mean I'm attacking them." He laughed so hard he had to wipe his eyes. "Guys," he said to his audience, "I think we've seen enough. Our master fortune teller here has just declared 2 completely wrong takes in a row. Hit that follow if you're enjoying the entertainment, because I'm about to show you something even better." He leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "Luna," he said, "tomorrow I'll be joining you in person. You're going to a certain lake, right? To deal with a certain body?" My stomach dropped. "Who told you that?" I demanded. Liam smiled. "You did," he said. "On stream." He held up his phone and read a comment out loud. A viewer says, "Host, can you please help my hometown? There's a pregnant woman's body floating in our reservoir. Divers have died trying to recover her. No one else will help us." He looked back at the camera. "And you, Luna," said, and I quote, "I'm not going to fish her out. I'm going to help her give birth." The chat went dead silent, then exploded. "She's insane, crying face emoji, giving birth to a corpse? This is clickbait IRL. Liam narrowed his eyes at me. Tomorrow night, he said, I'll be at that reservoir with you. I'll stream the whole thing. And when you fail or chicken out, everyone will see exactly what kind of scam this is. He ended the call before I could answer. I killed my own stream not long after. You shouldn't have accepted his link, my best friend Sophie groaned as she sprawled on my couch, watching the replay. He's like a human lawsuit. It wouldn't have mattered, I said, closing my laptop. He already picked his narrative, fake mystic preys on grieving villagers. Whether I turned him down or not, he'd spin it the same way. Sophie snorted. You could just not go, she said. The reservoir thing. I have to go, I said quietly. The story from Stonebridge had been making rounds in niche forums for weeks. A heavily pregnant woman's body had been floating in the town reservoir for almost a month. Professional recovery divers refused to go near it. 2 men who tried had died under mysterious circumstances. During the day, the water was calm and empty. At night, the red-dressed figure surfaced. People had started calling her the Lake Bride. The villagers offered 20 grand to anyone who can pull her out, Sophie reminded me. Cash. Up front. I'm not going for the money, I said. Yeah, she muttered. I know. You're going because no one else will help her. We left the next afternoon. Stonebridge was one of those fading American towns you only see from the highway, peeling paint, shuttered shops, a diner with a neon sign that flickered more than it glowed. The town council leader, a young guy named Ethan Fong, met us in the parking lot of the community center. He looked exhausted. Luna? He asked, eyes bright with hope. Thank you for coming. I'm Ethan, the town chair. This whole situation. It's tearing the town apart. No one goes out after dark. Kids are having nightmares. We've tried everything. No one can get her out. He insisted on feeding us first. The biggest house in town had a wide yard and a huge grill out back. They'd roasted a whole lamb for us, set up picnic tables and piled them high with casseroles and pies. It was the most food I'd seen all month. They treated us like visiting heroes. As we ate, Ethan tried to hide how scared he was, joking about superstition and small-town ghosts. But every few minutes, his gaze would drift toward the hills, where the reservoir lay hidden. By sunset, Sophie and I walked down the dirt path to the water's edge with half the town trailing behind us. The reservoir was larger than I'd expected, a vast black mirror encircled by trees. The moon hung full and bright overhead, silver light rippling across the surface. A large pontoon boat bobbed near the shore, dwarfed by the dark expanse of water. Looming beside it was something much bigger. What is that? I asked, stopping dead. Sophie beamed. Our ride. A 2-story party boat, complete with lights, a railing, and, embarrassingly, a banner that read in looping script, the Luna. You named the boat after me? I said flatly. It's called branding, she said. Also, I wanted you to look cool. This isn't a brand collab, I said. We're dealing with a water ghost. She waved a hand. That's what the smaller boat is for, she said, pointing at a narrow transparent craft tethered to the party boat. It had a bright floodlight mounted at the front. This one's for show. The little one is for work. Before I could respond, Ethan's voice rang out behind us. She's back. Everyone scattered. 1 second the shore was crowded with people, the next, they were gone, leaving only a few abandoned shoes in the grass. Sophie whistled. Now that's what I call an Irish goodbye. I stepped onto the smaller boat. We pushed off. As the party boat drifted behind us, lights dimmed, the reservoir swallowed us in darkness. The only illumination came from our front floodlight and the swollen moon overhead. After a minute, something floated into view. She wore a long red dress. Her arms and legs were pale and bare, skin as white as porcelain. Her hair billowed around her head like dark ink in the water. Her belly, enormous and round, stretched the fabric of her dress to its limit. She should have been bloated, skin discolored, features distorted. She wasn't. She looked like she'd slipped under the water minutes ago. She's glowing, Sophie whispered. She was. Fine, silvery strands of light drifted down from the moon, wrapping around the woman's body, weaving a shimmering cocoon around her. She's absorbing moonlight, I said quietly. She's not just a corpse anymore. What does that mean? Sophie asked. It means, I said, she's turning into something much worse. I watched the way her skin drank in the light, how it reflected back in a faint pearly sheen. She's becoming a moon wraith, I explained. Like a stronger form of a water ghost. Her resentment is feeding on the lunar energy. If she finishes changing, she'll be almost impossible to harm. And we're supposed to help her give birth? Sophie asked, voice a little higher than usual. We don't have to help her, I said. We have to convince her. The child is part of what's keeping her anchored. If we can safely deliver the spirit of that baby and send it off to a new life, most of her rage will go with it. Sophie grimaced. And if we fail? She asked. I didn't answer. Call Cass, I said instead. Cassidy Wu was a college student who streamed tarot readings and ghost stories for fun. What most of her audience didn't know was that she came from a line of mediums and had a contract with a guardian spirit, a handsome, temperamental ghost named Zane. I dialed her number. Cass answered on the first ring. I'm outside my apartment, she said breathlessly. I see the reservoir on your stream. I'm on my way. 15 minutes. Make it 10, I said. She did. Soon she was clambering onto the party boat with a heavy backpack and messy ponytail, cheeks flushed from running. Liam was right behind her. Guess who I ran into outside the gas station? Cass chirped. He insisted on coming along. Isn't that great? I pinched the bridge of my nose. Liam's camera, several, actually, were already rolling. Little red lights winked from his headband, his chest harness, and a ring he wore on his finger. Evening, folks, he said, panning across our faces. Liam here, coming to you live from Stonebridge Reservoir, where our favorite mystic has promised to help a ghost give birth. Let's see how she plans to pull this off without props, mirrors, or hired actors. And if you're here from Luna's channel, he added, his smile sharpening, don't worry. I'll keep you safe from misinformation. I ignored him. Zane, Cass whispered, stepping back from the railing. Time to work. She opened a small, ornate box and shook out a roll of old paper, Zane's contract token. A gust of cold air swept past us, ruffling our hair. A tall, translucent figure appeared at Cass's side, arms crossed, expression annoyed. Absolutely not, he said. Whatever is in that water is furious, and heavily pregnant. I'm not getting near her. Please. Cass pleaded. Luna says we have to help her baby get out to calm her down. And you're the only one strong enough to keep her from lashing out at us. Zane groaned. You people are going to be the death of me. Again. Liam spun around, confused. Who are you talking to? He demanded. Is this part of the act? Nobody answered. We guided the smaller boat toward the woman in red. Each time we drew close, she drifted away, as if the current carried her just out of reach. It felt like chasing a dream you could never quite grasp. After 30 minutes of this, Liam's patience snapped. How much longer are we going to play follow the mannequin? He snapped. Are you waiting for special effects to load? He shook his head in disbelief. You are really making people seasick for views, huh? Sophie's eye twitched. One more word, she said tightly, and I'm going to accidentally hit end live with my fist. Do it, someone typed in my chat. I didn't see who drove the boat, or whether the wind shifted, or if the lake itself made a choice. All I know is that the very next turn sent us right into the woman's path. She glided toward us, closer and closer, until the floodlight hit her face. She was young. Maybe late 20s. Her features were delicate, almost doll-like, with soft lips and a small nose. Her eyes were wide open, irises slightly clouded, a sign of death, but still bright enough to make my chest ache. When Liam's reflection crossed her face, something in me flinched. She twitched. Her hair unfurled like a nest of black snakes, shooting out of the water to wrap around his waist. In one fluid motion, she dragged him overboard. He hit the water with a splash. Help! He screamed, sputtering. I can't swim. Pull me up. Fake, he told his viewers earlier. Plastic mannequin. The mannequin surfaced beside him, sitting on the surface of the water like it was solid ground. Her head turned. She grabbed his throat with both hands. The cameras on his headband and chest caught everything. She laughed as she squeezed, blood tears streaking from the corners of her eyes. "Move," I shouted, diving into the water. Cold swallowed me whole. Sophie flung a coil of rope after me. Cass grabbed my sleeve as I went, whispering a rapid-fire prayer. Zane gritted his teeth and launched himself into the water as well, his spectral form flickering under the surface like blue fire. The woman's grip was frighteningly strong. By the time we reached them, Liam's face was turning blue. I jammed a consecrated wooden charm between her fingers, muttering a brief protection verse. The charm burned with a burst of light. The woman hissed and flinched, loosening her grip just long enough for Zane to yank Liam upward and shove him toward the boat. Sophie leaned over the side and hauled him in like a drowning cat. Liam collapsed on the deck, coughing so hard he could barely breathe. He stared at me with wild eyes. "That wasn't an actor," he choked. "No," I said calmly, treading water. "It wasn't." "Then what?" he rasped. "Was that?" "A very angry mother," I said. "And the person responsible for her death is on this boat." His expression flickered. He looked away. The woman in red floated in front of me, hair swirling, eyes fixed on my face. "Listen," I said, keeping my tone gentle. "We're not here to hurt you. We know you were wronged. We want to help your baby. We can give them a name. A place. A future." Her fingers clenched into fists. She didn't answer. Cass stood on the boat's edge, shaking her bone rattle, a smooth, carved instrument passed down from her family. "Sister," she called. "Every night you float here, you feel the wind, the dark, the cold water pressing down on you. Do you really want your child to feel that too?" Zane hovered nearby, watching the woman warily, ready to intervene. "If you let us help," Cass continued, "your baby can leave this place. They can be born properly, given a name, and sent off to another life. They'll be safe. You won't have to worry about them anymore." Something flickered in the woman's gaze. Slowly, she drifted toward the boat. Her hand lifted. Something small and metallic glinted between her fingers, a gold panther head pendant, the kind sold by an expensive jewelry brand. She opened her hand. The pendant dropped into my palm. Behind me, on the boat, Liam made a strangled noise. I turned just in time to see panic flash across his face, raw and undisguised. "You recognize this, don't you?" I asked softly. He said nothing. His jaw clenched. I slipped the pendant into my pocket and climbed back onto the boat. "Back up," I told Sophie quietly. "We're starting." We spread a clean cloth on the deck and lifted the woman onto it. Her skin was cold as ice. Her belly looked impossibly stretched, skin pale and taut. Cass took her left hand, squeezing it firmly. "You can do this," she whispered. "You've done the hard part. This is just the last step." I knelt between the woman's legs, gloved hands steady. From the corner of my eye, I saw Liam inch closer. Then he moved. A flash of wood glinted in his hand. He lunged. Instinct took over. I shoved him sideways. His hand slipped, and the consequence of what he tried to do became obvious. The consecrated stake he'd been holding would have gone straight through the woman's swollen belly. If that had happened, she and the child would have both died in rage, sealing their hatred into the water forever. "That was your plan?" I said, voice like ice. "Wait until she was most vulnerable and then destroy her and her child in one blow?" Liam's face twisted. "She's not human anymore," he snarled. "You can't bargain with something like that. The only way to end it is to wipe it out." Sophie grabbed him by the collar and slapped him, hard. "Wipe yourself out," she snapped. "You don't get to decide that." Cass stared at him, horrified. "You knew she was real," she said. "You knew from the moment you saw her from the shore. And you still came out here pretending it was all a game." Liam's eyes burned. "You think I don't know what I did?" He spat. "You think I don't know her?" The words hit the deck like stones. He had stopped calling her it. "You killed her," I said quietly. Silence fell. He laughed, bitter and harsh. Not directly, he said. I didn't push her. I didn't drown her. I just made sure she had nowhere else to go. He looked out at the water. Her name was Hannah, he said. We grew up in the same town. She was my first everything. First kiss. First future. He swallowed. But I was ambitious, he said. I got into college out of state. She didn't. I told her I'd come back for her once I made it. She believed me. He rubbed his face, smearing lake water and tears across his cheeks. Years later, I was back shooting a segment on predatory lenders. I was already big online. I had a wife, a CEO's daughter, and a kid. The perfect life. And there she was, working at a diner, still sending money to her sick dad, still waiting for someone who never came. He looked at me, eyes wild. She came to the reservoir to talk, he said. To ask why I disappeared. Why I never answered her messages. Why, when she finally tracked me down, I pretended not to know her. And? I said. She told me she was pregnant, he said. That it was my child. That she hadn't been with anyone else. That she didn't want money, she just didn't want the baby to be born without a name, without a father. My jaw clenched. What did you do? I asked. He laughed again, broken. I told her my life was too complicated, he said. I told her I had a brand to protect. That my viewers saw me as a family man, and if they found out I'd gotten a girl from back home pregnant before marriage, it would ruin me. He stared at his hands. I gave her money for options, he said. Told her to take care of it quietly. Told her I'd send more when I could. She cried. I walked away. He didn't need to finish. Everyone on that boat could fill in the rest. She'd gone to the reservoir anyway. And she'd never come back. You spent your whole career saving strangers on camera, I said softly. But when it really mattered, you didn't save the one person who reached out to you. He flinched like I'd slapped him. You knew, I added. You saw the posts about the reservoir. You saw mention of a pregnant woman. You never reached out. You never called the police and said, maybe I know who she is. You waited until you could turn her into content. The cameras on his chest and forehead stared back at us, little red lights still blinking. He yanked them off, one by one, and hurled them into the water. Fine, he said hoarsely. No more content. No more live audience. No more brand. What do I have to do to fix this? The woman in red stirred. Her fingers tightened around the edge of the cloth. Luna, Cass whispered urgently. She's slipping. We didn't have time for speeches anymore. Hold her, I said. Cass gripped the woman's hand tighter and began chanting softly, calling on the gates of life and death to open just enough to let a child pass through. Zane hovered protectively at the woman's shoulder, ready to intercept any violent surge of energy. I focused on my work. The labor was both real and not real, physical and spiritual at once. There was no blood, no tissue, only a concentrated knot of gray, dense energy that resisted being pulled free. It fought me. For a moment, I thought it would snap back, dragging the woman with it into deeper, darker water. Then a hand closed over mine. Warm. Solid. Liam. If there's anything left of Hannah that can hear me, he said quietly, speaking to the air above the woman's face, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know it's too late. But if there's one thing I can do, it's make sure our child doesn't drown in the mess I made. Let him go. Let me carry what's left. The knot loosened. With a final tug, it came free. In my hands lay the shape of a small baby formed out of light and shadow, its features blurred but distinct enough to see little fingers, little toes. It let out a soft, soundless wail. Male, I said softly. Hannah's son. Cass raised her rattle, voice clear and ringing over the water. Child of Hannah, born of sorrow but not bound by it, she intoned. You have a name, a story, and a place in this world. Take this chance. Go forward. Live. We lifted the tiny spirit toward the moon. For a moment, the light around him flared brighter. Then he dissolved into points of white that drifted up, and vanished into the star-sprinkled sky. The woman on the cloth exhaled. The tension in her limbs faded. The angry, suffocating pressure around us eased. Her body began to unravel, not in a gruesome way, but like foam dissolving in water. Her red dress faded, the color leaching out until all that remained was a halo of soft light that drifted back into the reservoir. Sophie burst into tears and grabbed Cass in a crushing hug. "Hannah," she sobbed. "You beautiful disaster. You deserved better." Cass sniffled so hard she hiccuped. "Luna," she wailed, "you gave the baby such a terrible name in my notes." "Why?" I blinked. "What?" "You wrote Lake Boy as a placeholder," she said. "You can't call him that in the records. That's awful." I sighed, exhausted. "Fine," I said. "You name him." Cass straightened, wiping her eyes. "Liam," she declared. Sophie and I both snapped our heads toward Liam. He flinched. "Don't," he whispered. "Too late," Cass said. "If you live right, maybe you can be worthy of someone carrying your name." We made it back to shore just as the town's foghorn sounded 11. Ethan met us at the dock, eyes wide, scanning the water behind us. "It's quiet," he said. "It will be," I answered. "She's gone. She's not trapped anymore. Neither is the baby." He sagged with relief, thanking us over and over, promising more money, more help, more everything. I waved it off. "Use it to fix the safety railings around the reservoir," I said. "And invest in better mental health resources. Not every ghost problem comes from nowhere." Later, as I sat on the hood of Sophie's car, wrapped in a blanket and sipping hot tea, my phone buzzed. It was my teacher. "You did well," she said after I answered. "But don't get comfortable. There's work waiting in Yunnan. Mountain spirits. Gambling dens. You'll leave at dawn." I groaned. Sophie brightened. "Road trip?" "Flight," I corrected. "Your butt just healed from sitting on that boat. I'm not putting you through a cross-country drive." She pouted, then grinned. "At least tell me there'll be good food." "There's always good food," I said. As we drove away from the reservoir, my chat, what remained of it after the stream, filled with messages. "Luna, I'm never doubting you again. I still don't understand everything, but I'm weirdly comforted. Please keep doing this. The real stuff. Not just for views." I glanced at the rearview mirror. Liam sat in the back seat of his own car, parked a ways behind us, staring out at the now calm water. His cameras were gone. His chat was gone. For the first time, he was just a man with a past to answer for. Maybe he'd make things right with Hannah's family. Maybe he'd confess publicly. Maybe he'd disappear from the internet entirely. That part wasn't my job. My job was to show up where the living and the dead tangled too tightly, and try, in whatever messy way I could, to untie the knot. Tomorrow, it would be another place, another story, another restless soul. Tonight, the lake was quiet. That was enough.